Have you ever bought something, not because you needed it, not even because you really wanted it, but because of how it would look if someone saw you with it? Maybe it was a bag, a car, a watch, a vacation photo. And for a second, it felt good. And then, it didn't, quite. Here's something strange about money. A lot of what we spend isn't really spent on things. It's spent on an image, a version of ourselves we're hoping other people will see. And the wild part is, most of the time, we're not even consciously choosing this. It happens quietly, in the background, almost like a tax we didn't know we signed up for. In this video, we're going to look at the psychology behind looking rich, why it feels so pulling, what it's actually costing us, and most importantly, what tends to happen on the other side, once people stop playing that game. By the end, you might find yourself looking at your own spending a little differently. Not with guilt, just with a bit more clarity. Because once you can see the pattern, it's a lot easier to step outside of it. There's a concept in psychology called the spotlight effect. It's the sense that everyone is watching us, noticing our choices, judging our appearance, far more than they actually are. In reality, most people are walking around wrapped up in their own thoughts, their own to-do lists, their own worries. They're not clocking your shoes. They're not calculating your car's resale value. They're thinking about what they're making for dinner. But our brains don't quite believe that. We act as if there's an audience all the time. And so we start making decisions. What to buy, what to wear, what to post, based on a performance for people who, mostly, aren't watching. This isn't a character flaw. It's just how human brains are wired. We're social creatures, and for most of our history, being seen a certain way by your group actually mattered for survival. The wiring is old. The stakes today are different, but the feeling is just as strong. Here's where it gets interesting. A lot of looking rich isn't really about money at all. It's about feeling safe. Think about it this way. If you grew up in an environment where things felt unstable, financially, emotionally, socially, looking like you have it together can feel like armor. If people see success, they assume stability. They assume you're fine. And on some level, that signal can feel reassuring, even to yourself. So the nice car, the renovated kitchen, the trip that gets shared online, these things can become a kind of shorthand. I'm doing okay. I'm not falling behind. I'm safe. The problem is, this kind of safety is borrowed, not built. It depends entirely on other people continuing to read the signal the way you want them to. And that's a shaky foundation because you can't actually control how people interpret what you have. You can only control what you buy, and that part comes with a price tag attached. There's a quieter cost to all of this, and it's the one that tends to sneak up over time. The goalposts keep moving. Let's say you get the thing, the car, the apartment, the wardrobe upgrade. For a little while, it feels good. You imagine people noticing, and maybe some do. But pretty quickly, that feeling fades into the background. It becomes normal. It becomes just what you have now. And the strange thing is, instead of feeling satisfied, a new comparison tends to appear. Maybe it's a slightly nicer version of the same thing. Maybe it's someone else's upgrade that suddenly makes yours feel dated. This is sometimes called the hedonic treadmill. We adapt to what we have surprisingly fast, and the bar for enough quietly resets itself just out of reach. So the spending doesn't stop. It just continues. And each round of it costs real money, real time, real energy, for a feeling that rarely lasts longer than a few days. Here's a question worth sitting with for a moment. If you pictured the specific people you're trying to impress with a purchase, could you actually name them? For a lot of people, when they really think about it, the answer is surprisingly vague. It's not one particular person. It's a kind of general faceless audience, a sense of people, everyone, they. And often, when you do picture a specific person, a friend, a sibling, a former classmate, and you imagine showing them the thing you bought, a strange thing happens. You realize they probably wouldn't care nearly as much as you imagined. They have their own lives, their own spotlight effect running, their own things they're quietly trying to manage. This little exercise, naming the audience, tends to deflate the urgency really fast, because it turns out a lot of everyone is watching is really just a story we're telling ourselves. And once you can see it as a story, it loses some of its grip. This isn't a video about giving everything up or living without nice things. That's not really the point, and honestly, that kind of all or nothing thinking usually doesn't last anyway. What's more interesting is what people often describe when they start spending less on image purchases, not out of restriction, but out of awareness. A common theme is relief. There's less mental noise, fewer moments of comparing, scrolling, calculating what other people might think. Some people describe it as having more room in their head, space that used to be quietly occupied by status tracking. Another common theme is that the things people do keep, the ones they actually chose for themselves, not for an audience, start to feel more meaningful. Not flashier, just more theirs. And often, the money that used to go toward looking like things are good gets redirected toward things that actually make life feel good. More savings, more breathing room, more time, fewer things to maintain or worry about. So here's the shift, if there is one. It's not, stop buying nice things. It's more like, notice when a purchase is about you, and when it's about an audience that may not even be paying attention. That's really the whole pattern. The spotlight feels real, but it's mostly imagined. The safety that status promises is borrowed, not built. And the goalposts will keep moving for as long as we let an invisible audience set them. Once you can see that clearly, you get to make a different kind of choice. Not driven by guilt and not driven by performance either. Just driven by what actually matters to you underneath all the noise. So here's something worth sitting with. Think of one thing you've bought or wanted to buy, mainly because of how it would look to other people. Now ask yourself honestly, who, specifically, were you picturing? And do you think they'd actually notice as much as you imagined? I'd love to hear what comes up for you in the comments. No judgment here, just curious what you find when you look a little closer. Thanks for spending this time with me. I'll see you in the next one.